Hello, nerds. We're the Animaniacs. We're crazy to the max. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the 1990s, and when movies were movies and studios were studios.
Dude, you just went blank, or you went silent. It's a party emergency. Hey, everybody, if you're wondering what the hell's going on, I'm over here wanting to watch the damn Wickline show and suddenly Kyle's on my screen. Or if you're watching Kyle's show and you're like, what's damn Wickline doing there? Well, it turns out we have decided to merge the two shows for today so we can talk about the Warner Brothers Netflix deal. But
I did a whole riff on the Animaniacs.
you're silent again. You might want to try a different microphone, my friend. Yeah.
No, screw it.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
And this is charged up. I don't understand why it's not working all of a sudden. Hey, Jay's here.
Hey,
Anyway,
let's bring Dan.
I had done a whole riff on like the Animaniacs and quoted the theme song and like all of this good content, like really good content, and nobody heard any of it.
Yeah, but I got to do my Yakko imitation. So
It's true. But no, like back in the day when like I was talking about the 90s when studios used to be studios and movies came to like big like theaters, and then you would wait like 6 months and you get them on this big black piece of plastic that you had to put in like this, and then it said "Be Kind, Rewind" on it. Like it was a whole riff. Just wasted.
Lisa's son heard that one time. He's like, "What were they rewinding?"
Welcome in, everybody. I was going to play the intro. We're going to skip the intro. We're just going to get right into it because there's a lot to talk about.
Yep. So, like I said, if you're looking for Producers Live, he's right there.
If you're looking for the Dan Wickline show, he's right there.
And I am. By the way, that I do that voice all the time, and nobody gets the reference because now it's such a obscure reference.
Right. Right.
Do you get it?
I do. It's from the Animaniacs.
No.
It's
older.
Well, because that was something Maurice LaMarche would do, or not Maurice LaMarche, Rob Paulson would do on Animaniacs.
Yeah, but go back to the 70s.
I wasn't born in the 70s. I don't know.
Think of somebody dressed in an all-black outfit with a mask coming on going, "Here I am." Zorro the Gay Blade.
No, I was gonna say Jake and the Fat Man.
No, the ball scene where he's got everybody showing up as Zorro, and
There you go.
El Comandante is running around ripping masks off until he gets to the tiny little guy. He's like, I know who you are. Sorry, I love that movie, even though it's probably very
It is. It's an obscure. It's a deep cut, Jeff. It's a deep cut there, Dan.
It is. So, but then again, I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. with the idea for a fart joke that I had to post on Facebook. So you knew it was going to be one of those kind of days.
What was I was talking to somebody about something. Oh, there is on FOC, there's an Atlas Comics hardcover of the old Snafu books. You know, pre-Marvel, like their answer to EC's Mad books. And some of the writing is Stan Lee, and it's some of Stan Lee's only working in the fart joke category is in this book. That's right. I had to explain to people what would happen. Hulk fart. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, Dan, why don't I will make myself disappear for a minute. You explain to everybody the news. What has happened? Why are we here?
Okay. Cats and dogs living together. It's horrible. No. So what's basically happened is when Warner Brothers put out Actually, I think it started because Paramount decided we're gonna try to buy Warner Brothers. It started this whole bidding process. Warner Brothers listened to the order or listened to the offer, but said it's not enough. So other companies kind of went, "Hey, wait, Warner Brothers for sale? We can buy Batman and Superman and Harry Potter, and let's go check it out." So other companies like Netflix, Universal, Comcast, all those guys started running in, going, "Yeah," you know, and it went back and forth. And Netflix came in with a huge cash bid, along with a guarantee of was it 5 million, 5 billion? I don't know. I don't remember the number at this point, but basically a huge number that said if this doesn't work out, you get paid. And it was enough to win over the bid over Paramount, which I know has a lot of people really concerned right now because, well, they didn't want Paramount to get it because Paramount has this kind of right wing swing to it right now. So people didn't want that because they didn't want everybody fired and start over and start doing more conservative programming. But when they go to Netflix, now they're like, oh my God, we're not going to get theatrical releases and everything is going to go straight to Netflix, which is, they're saying that's not the case. But that's kind of where we're at right now, is that the process has begun. And this is going to be a long process. This is not like an overnight thing. I'm just going to throw this out there right now. Anybody who thinks that tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and find out that James Gunn has been fired, it's not going to happen for a couple of reasons. One, Gunn and Safran just got their extensions renewed through 2027. David Zaslav is still in charge. So even if the sale has to go through, the terminology is stuck me, but basically it has to be approved by the government, make sure it's not anti-monopoly. And
And we'll get into all of those legal wranglings here in a minute.
yeah,
But
that's going to take a year or two, if not. Plus, the DOJ has come out and said that they don't think it's going to go through. There's already senators coming out, like Elizabeth Warren, saying they don't think it's a good idea. So this is going to be a long process.
well, and we can start with the whole of it's not just America that has to approve it,
Yeah, Europe
right?
has to as
So,
well.
right, the regulatory commissions on this kind of thing, um, they have to go through multiple countries. So Canada can kill it, the European Union can kill it, England can kill it, India can kill it. There are a lot of there are a lot of options where this whole thing can fall apart. So, real quick, he's sitting back there. He's waiting patiently. Should we bring on Dot to your Yakko and my Wacko?
Of course.
There's Dot, and
Hello,
he dressed for the
everybody.
occasion.
Sure
He's
Hello,
wearing
did.
Jay.
Superman. He dressed for the occasion.
Sure
Nice.
did. This
So,
just feels right, guys. I got to say it. This just feels right. Three of us together again. I love it.
Well, Dan texted me the other day, and I'm like, we should do this. Like, this has got to be a thing, right? Like,
yeah,
this feels like it needs us.
yeah. I was just missing my experience, folk. So I messaged you, Kyle. I messaged JD, and I said, JD, how you doing? He goes, I'm fine. What did you hear? I'm like, okay, JD.
That's a default response now. But so Jay is maybe the biggest DC fan we have, right? Like Jay is Mr. DC, and I'm
Yeah,
Mr. None of the above, and Dan likes everybody.
right.
So it's this kind of TJ. I will text you after the show with the joke I've been making as we've talked about that joke, the fingerprints joke, all day.
There. Closest
But
I have to a
no,
Warner Brothers hat.
mine's not. But this is my Wacko hat. It's red like his, so I went with it.
Very nice.
No, so we were talking about the approval process, and
Right.
I said this in a group chat the other day, that we'll probably see a deal in principle by like the end of the month. And what I mean by that is this is the official per share price that we're going to pay. Like finally hammered out. This is exactly what we're buying. We finally hammered out. This is our transition process finally hammered out. This is who we plan to keep as of now. Everybody minus these people.
Right.
You know, all of that stuff will have to be hammered out relatively quickly so that it can go to, in the US, it's the FTC, but other places, it's other bodies. And so, Dan, you were talking about a lot of folks don't think it's going to go through.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, a couple of senators are coming out. There's some people who are just outright against it because the collapsing of all the studios. As we get to the point where there's fewer and fewer studios, it's just going to get to this monopoly stage, which is what they want to prevent. You know, we've already had Disney buy out Fox. We Amazon just bought out MGM. Paramount just bought. Skydance bought Paramount. So these are all condensing down, and in doing so, it's creating less opportunity, which is the big thing with monopoly. They don't want that to happen. Now, I'm not saying that there's going to be suddenly a Monopoly movie, but probably going to be one of those too. But there's just, that's the biggest concern. And there are certain senators who will always come out against big company mergers like that. And Senator Warren is one of them, you know,
Yeah.
but there are some other ones coming out too. But there's another factor in this, in that the folks that run Paramount, who are the ones screaming right now that the process was unfair and they're the ones that wanted to buy it, they are in good with the current administration. Where had they been the deal, if the DOJ probably would have just let it smooth on through.
Well, ironically, as reported by the Hollywood Reporter today, this morning, Ted Sarandos met with Donald Trump ahead of Wednesday's Warner Brothers deal. The streaming giant aims to acquire yada, yada, yada. Ted Sarandos has sat with the president.
Because he knew what he's got to do. By the way, Ted Sarandos scares me a little bit. Did you hear the quotes he was saying about how Ted Sarandos doesn't believe the theaters are where we need to be? That even though he has said they're not going to get rid of the theatrical releases, but they're going to make the theatrical windows a little smaller. This is the same guy that said his nephew watched Lawrence of Arabia on his phone and enjoyed it.
So I think, and again, I am a big proponent of going to the movies, right? Like, I love to go to a movie theater. I love to get a big old greasy bucket of popcorn and, all of that kind of stuff. So but I agree with where Ted Sarandos is coming from. There is a opportunity cost to a movie theater that isn't necessarily doable for everybody, right? It's a $20 movie ticket. It's a $15 bucket of popcorn. It's a $10 soda. It's $25 worth of fuel to drive to the nearest megaplex because they don't exist everywhere anymore, right? It didn't like the old days where you'd have a 2-screener on every block, right? You got to drive across. I got to drive across town to see a movie. So it's becoming less. The opportunity cost is becoming higher and higher to see movies. That said, I would like Ted Sarandos to take the money he got from The Departed being in movie theaters out of his bank account and then make a decision. Right? This is a guy who made big money by making a Scorsese movie, putting it in theaters and on his streaming platform, and making a bunch of money. Like, it's important to remember that there is good in column A and good in column B. And if we can find a middle ground, right, where it goes into movie theaters and it's exclusive in the movie theaters for a month or whatever. And then it drops on streaming, but it's still in the movie theater. So if you're a shut-in, if you're someone who can't get to the movie theater because it's, a half hour, 40 minutes away,
Mm-hmm.
if you're someone who, again, struggles with the crowds, like who doesn't people, like Jay doesn't people a lot. So if you're one of those people, well, now you can watch it at home. I'm still gonna go get my giant bucket of popcorn.
Yeah.
There's a balance that has to be struck there, and I think that's an important wave of the future. And last time I was at the movie theater had 15 screens was showing 7 movies. Why is it not showing 15 movies? Right? If we can find this balance, well, now movies can stay in theaters longer, right? They could be on streaming, but movie theaters can show more options.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can work.
But there's other factors you got to think of as well, like the fact that I think about the pandemic, and the fumbling they did when the pandemic hit, putting movies out simultaneously. But I think they could work that out. But the number of people going to the movies now since the pandemic has dropped considerably. I mean, there's a drastic drop. I look at my own self. Okay. I cover movies and stuff online. You know how many movies I've been to since the pandemic? 2.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania, and Superman. And Superman's the first one in years that I went, I've got to go see it in the theater. But there is a third movie that, had I the opportunity, I would be in theaters this month to go see, and that's Wake Up Dead Man. But it's not playing near me. So, there's cash that Sarandos is not getting had he just did a regular theatrical release.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm saying is that, right, it's Ed talking about he has no desire to ever go to a movie theater again. Right? Like the overpriced Leonard talking about nothing like overpriced movie snacks. I'm one of those that I'm fortunate enough to enjoy going to a movie. I don't mind crowds. I don't mind paying the price for the experience. But y'all, I'm not going to see every action flick at the movie theater like I used to. But I'm going to see if there's a movie I really like, I'm gonna go to the movie theater and see it. There's a movie I'm really interested in going to see, I'm gonna go to a movie theater. And I'm the kind that if Wake Up Dead Man is playing an hour from me and I want to see it, I'll drive the hour. Like that's the kind I am. Like so it's each individual person, but if they strike a balance, again, where it's in movie theaters, it's in limited release. If you want to drive a half hour to go see it, great. If you just want to wait for it to hit Netflix, great. These kind of picture by picture figuring it out, not necessarily one universal answer, right?
Yeah. Well, also, I think it really, I think they should start looking at what they're putting in the theater. Because there are some movies that really should be experienced in the theater. Avatar, the upcoming Avengers. But the movie Jay Kelly that just opened up on Netflix this weekend, I don't see any reason for that to be in a theater. It's a little drama, comedy drama thing, which is getting great hype right now, but you could watch it on your TV and get the same effect. So I think what they ought to do is kind of rethink how they're doing theaters, put the ones in that are good that people want to see on the big screen, and maybe figure out a way to bring some of the costs down.
Well, and right, I mean, there are movies now when you think about movie production, we'll get back to the topic of what's going on with DC Warner Brothers and Netflix here in a minute, but there are movies now that are shot in 8K.
Mm-hmm.
There are movies now that are shot for IMAX. There are movies now that are shot for standard theater. And then there are people walking around shooting movies on this.
Yeah.
There isn't, when they made Lawrence of Arabia, there was one way to make a movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, now, why don't you release it in the way that you intended it to be? The way you shot it. If you made it for 8K, put it in the extreme theaters that can handle 8K. If you shot it for IMAX, send it to the IMAX.
Yeah.
If you made it for regular theaters, send it to regular theaters. And if you made it on your iPhone, it goes straight to streaming or YouTube or whatever.
And
Like,
stop
because
with 3D,
that's
it's done. Stop 3D. Stop with 3D, it's done.
Unless you make Third Dimension Smell-O-Vision, I'm out. I want to know what Dagobah smells like.
Swamp ass.
Yeah.
I know, but can you imagine going to see that movie and like just getting that sort of smell? How cool that would be the one time you do it.
You know, if they get to the point where was it the Sphere in
Right.
Vegas, where you go in and it's an immersive thing, and the movie's taking place all around you, and you could do that, pump in aromas and stuff to go with the movie and plan it all out like that. I think that would be an amazing experience. I just think that nowadays the movie going experience isn't what it used to be. And
Right.
the younger viewers aren't going to the theaters anymore. You know, there's I did a review of the Fantastic Four movie. And to me, the Fantastic Four movie was made for younger viewers who watch everything on their phone. They watch in clips. They don't actually see an entire movie. They just see, oh, this clip here and this clip here. And, oh, yeah, I watch Game of Thrones. I watch all the clips on YouTube. You know,
Right.
and that's what Fantastic Four was to me, was just a series of clips.
I think, yeah, I think you have to, if you want to drive people into theaters, you have to make it an experience. You have to make it a thing. You know, so now it's okay for your $50 ticket.
Mm-hmm.
You get the Superman popping the popcorn with his heat vision popcorn bucket, and you get the collector's cup, and you get to see the movie. Okay.
Why are people buying these freaking popcorn buckets? What the
I
hell?
love them. I love them. They look really good behind me on camera when I get my shelves put up. That's all I'm saying.
And we got hand the dog bowl.
But dude, you spent as much for that as I spent for this.
No, it's true. But again, like if you can make it experiential, it's the same reason people go to sporting events or the same reason people go to concerts, right? You have that experience. Well, that's all live in person that's all live in person stuff. Movies are not that. But the same reason we bought the Ghostbusters glasses back in the 80s. You know, it's this idea of if you get the I have a Galactus's head, by the way.
Wow.
I bought one on eBay for half of what they were selling it for in theaters. Anyway, so you can, if you can give somebody an experience, they'll spend more money and they're more likely to do it.
Yeah.
If you just are like, go sit in this movie theater that smells funny and the floors are sticky, and we're going to give you a subpar movie and that's it, nobody's going to go. So that brings me to the next round of people who are opposing this deal. India Multiplex Association opposes Netflix Warner Brothers deal, a highly meaningful reduction in quality content for cinemas. Theater owners in the United States. Hopefully the deal gets killed so Warner's can be sold to a better entity, says Chris Random, and chief executive owner at Flix Brewhouse, a Texas-based luxury movie theater chain. The ball is in the court of the talent in Hollywood. I hope they come out against this because that could change things. You have hold on, I have to go to my other browser here because my notes are all over the place.
Notes?
The European, here we go.
Notes? You do
Europe,
notes?
I have a bunch of tabs open. European theater owners opposes Netflix, Warner Brothers mega deal. The UNIC, which represents cinema exhibitors across Europe, fears a streamer will downgrade theatrical experience. Well, so that's your first. That's other than kind of other studios. Now the people who show the movies are like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. Do you think that Netflix would send lower quality films lower quality anything to cinemas? Like they would send a lower quality print, or like just send their crappy stuff there?
No, I think they're going to. Well, it depends. They're going to send the stuff they think that might make some money, but they're also going to send stuff to get it registered for Oscars. Because Jay Kelly did go in the theater, but it only went in the theater long enough for it to count for Oscar nominations. By the way, that's where that will be the change of tide right there. If Oscars ever consider things that are released to streaming only, you'll never see Megalopolis or any of these little films. I know Megalopolis is not a little film, but you'll never see them in the theaters again. Wake Up Dead Man's only in theaters so it can count towards Oscars. And it made a lot. The first Knives Out made a lot of money.
True. So the next group that has come out has been Talent. Really, it's kind of come out against this. The WGA opposes Netflix Warner Brothers deal. The merger must be blocked. SAG-AFTRA says proposed pact raises serious questions about the impact of the future of the entertainment industry. So SAG-AFTRA, again, has come out against it. The WGA, who apparently Christopher Nolan was going to go meet with everybody and have a conversation, which, by the way, it was reported that Nolan and Snyder and the Saudis were trying to buy Warner Brothers. I don't want Christopher Nolan negotiating with them now. Just saying. If you're a member of the WGA, send somebody else. But you also have Jane Fonda calling it catastrophic, could destroy our creative industry. Sean Baker, who's a filmmaker that I like, and I think Dan probably is pretty familiar with. He directed Anara. The indie filmmaking hero said he'll insist on a 100-day theatrical run for his next feature and has no plan to go for the $150 million studio thing. So he is already coming out and saying, hey, I'm against this and I'm going to do my indie darling thing to stop it. How the other unions have come out against it. So you have, WGA has written the biggest one so far, but again, SAG-AFTRA. By the way, SAG-AFTRA is up for another contract, so this could be an interesting negotiating point.
What does Samwise Gamgee think of it?
Not being a member of that union, I haven't seen.
I love that he's the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I liked Fran, but I think he's way better than Fran.
In sounds matter.
Oh.
But did people kick up this much fuss when Amazon bought MGM?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they were afraid that they wouldn't put, do you want James Bond to go straight to streaming? That was what people were talking about. All the MGM properties would just go straight to streaming. Well, Amazon came out and said, we're not going to do that. We will put them in theater. We will keep the theatrical release. Now, they haven't committed to how long. I'm thinking we're going to end up with like a 30, 45-day window on some of this stuff. But that doesn't necessarily hurt a movie. Look at Superman. Superman only had a 45-day window because HBO Max moved the date of Peacemaker season 2, and Gunn wanted people to have a chance that weren't going to the theater to see it. So he took it out and put it on VOD within 45 days. But that's my other thought now is, does that eliminate VOD if you're, going straight to Netflix, and what about physical media?
Right. And I think on some level, if this happens, which again, the big thing we have to remember, right, is that as we started off saying, there's still a lot of opposition. There's still a lot it has to go through to get done, right? It's still got to go through so much approval, so much oversight, that if it happens, what I would want were I any of these unions, any of these contractors, any of these people who could really be affected by this is interim writing. So, okay, we are going to produce physical media on anything XYZ.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever that term is, right? We are going to do a minimum 45-day theatrical release on anything XYZ. Right? We're going to do a minimum 100-day theatrical release on anything, whatever. We're going to do a VOD release on this stuff, and have it clearly spelled out and have a term for how long they're going to guarantee that stuff. Right? 10 years. 50, whatever it winds up being.
Yeah.
And I think part of what we're going to see is with the resurgence of physical media that they're probably going to want to make physical media, because that used to be a really profitable thing for these studios back in the day when people were buying physical media, and then streaming happened and it all stopped. Well, guess what? There are entire generations who won't buy for your streamer, won't go to the movie theaters, but will buy your physical media. And if you don't have physical media, they're just going to steal it from you.
Yeah.
So give them what they want or get robbed. So, Akers, we're not going to talk about specific movies or anything like that. I know that's what you like to talk about, Stacy, but we're talking about the kind of the more overall kind of conversation. We might get into some of that a little later, but for right now, we're not gonna necessarily speculate on which things are they gonna make new of, what are they gonna redo, what are they gonna,
right?
Because it's still all got to happen.
Yeah.
So, some of the other things that have come out about this, and I just want to get y'all's opinion on this, is it's ironic. Netflix reassures subscribers after Warner Brothers deal nothing is changing today. Ironically, I went to log into HBO Max today, and the screen that came up is the same one that Netflix puts up when they think you're password sharing, with the exact same language.
Really?
Now, I'm not sure how many ways you could write that particular question, in terms of the language you could use, but it was real interesting. I'm going, huh.
Yeah. By the way, to answer one of the questions that popped up, somebody asked how it would be named. Most likely what they're going to do is, from what I've been hearing, is it'll be still Warner Brothers. They'll have the Warner Brothers shield, and then underneath it'll just say a Netflix company. They're not trying.
And that's how. Good.
Yeah, this isn't technically a merger; it's a buyout.
Right.
It's not like when Discovery bought Warner Brothers, they merged the two companies. This isn't that. This is Warner Brothers, at least from everything I'm hearing, will continue to exist as a studio, and it just where its content is going to end up going. Now, what this means for HBO Max or what like that? That's still up in the air, but they're still going to be making Harry Potter products or projects. They're still going to be doing um, Superman, and we're still getting Supergirl and Man of Tomorrow, and they just yesterday announced that Penguin 2 season 2 seems to be moving forward finally. So those things are still going to happen. It's just where it goes is going to be the question. And
in fact, they just dropped a teaser saying that the Supergirl trailer is coming later this week.
Yeah, I think on the 11th or 13th, I think it is. Yeah. But, and by the way, I do want to knock down one rumor. And it's just because it's one of the silliest rumors I ever heard. They will not be firing James Gunn and rehiring Zack Snyder to take back over DC. It's not going to happen. Okay. It's time to move on. It's time to let it go. Jason Momoa is Lobo now. Henry Cavill's the Highlander. Ben Affleck is back in Boston doing whatever he does there.
Dunkin' Donuts commercials.
Dunkin' Donuts commercial. It's the Snyderverse is done. And for all the people for some reason going, well, Netflix loves Zack Snyder. Netflix just canceled 4 Zack Snyder projects before this happened. There's no more Rebel Moon. It's done. Let it go.
Oh, well, I'm gonna kind of spin off of that. The nice thing about Netflix being not Warner Brothers is that Netflix has routinely shown that they have no loyalties. If James Gunn isn't doing the job, they'll replace him.
Mm-hmm.
If they see the right project come out of the Gunn Safran partnership that is a Zack Snyder film, where they're going, hey, this is the perfect movie for Zack Snyder to direct because it's 300 or it's one of the things that he's done that has been successful, not one of the things that he's done that's been trash, they'll hire him. They have no loyalty in that regard. So instead of worrying about who's running the universe or who's in charge, it's who's doing each project.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that Zack Snyder and James Gunn are friends. They like each other. And
right.
I think if Zack Snyder showed up, knocked on James's door and said, hey, I want to do a question movie and it's got a good script and stuff, then he'd probably do it.
Right. I was thinking Solomon Grundy, but
yeah.
Something like that where, okay, you can do that really artistic looking, again, that sort of very stylized like 300 was. The right fit for the right director is probably going to become more of a conversation than James Gunn and Peter Safran doing this. James Gunn and Peter Safran do this. It's James Gunn and Peter Safran have hired.
Yeah. The fact
Wes Anderson to direct the Jimmy Olsen movie.
Yeah, the fact that we have a Clayface movie coming out next year is because somebody walked in with a kick-ass Clayface script. And with somebody who, it's like, well, we're going to make a Clayface movie. James Mangold shows up going, okay, I'm ready to do Swamp Thing now. Roll it. Let's go.
Right. By the way, I really would like to see Wes Anderson take a pass at a Jimmy Olsen movie. Can you just see that being like just the best Michael Cera vehicle that's ever been since Scott Pilgrim? Just saying. Anyway.
I feel like Wes Anderson's X-Men.
Oh, man. All right, TJ, I'm starring that. We'll come back to that because that's on my list of things.
Mm.
Um, but I wanted to talk about real quick. We've kind of talked a little bit about the business dealing of this thing. So it's a 60 or 82.7. What did they say? $82.7 billion plan. Netflix or Warner Brothers has set up golden parachutes for their leads to the tune of, or for their leadership team to the tune of 38.7 million. That's not a lot of money in a multi-billion-dollar deal.
True.
Does that lead you to believe that the thing that James Gunn, or not James Gunn, that David Zaslav has said, they'll want to keep most everybody because they don't have a lot? You think that lends credence to it, the fact that they're not giving the most massive golden parachute ever?
I think so, but I also think because Warner Brothers is kind of on a hot streak right now, you know, why would you buy something successful to take it apart? You buy something, you buy Warner Brothers when it's down because you look at the pieces and go, we can fix this, we can do something with that. But when it's up and it's doing hits like Sinners and, I mean, it had a bunch of hits. I mean, the whole talk about firing Pam Abdi and Michael DeLuca, gone because they've turned it around. This isn't just Gunn and Safran. Gunn and Safran are turning around DC Studios, but DeLuca and Abdi have turned around Warner Brothers, and Netflix is buying this at a high. What's the old saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why would they not let these people stay until they stop doing well? You know, you
It's
don't go
true.
in and buy a football team and fire a winning manager
Most of the time.
most of the time.
I live in Ohio, man. I've seen the Browns do Browns things. Anyway, we got a question over on Instagram. Did anybody notice? Did Netflix shares go down on Friday?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. But I would imagine when you've committed to spend the kind of money Netflix has committed to spend, there's a little bit of ooh among shareholders
Yeah, I could
that
see
could
that.
cause a little bit of instability. It would likely rebound. Okay.
Oh, wait,
Did it
hang on,
do, do, mhm.
hang on. Jay, you want to say anything?
You know, the whole thing is until things are set in stone, I think anything can happen. Could be something goes on and Netflix ends up not getting it. But I will reiterate what Dan said. Regardless of how you feel about what Gunn and Saffron are doing, even if Netflix decides to get rid of it, they're not going backwards. They're going to go forward. All right. And that is somebody who enjoyed the DCEU stuff immensely, loved it. I like what's going on right now so far. Okay. But I have to agree, even if for whatever reason they decide at this point, Netflix doing Netflix things and like, nope, we don't like this leadership, they're not going to go to Zack Snyder. They're not going to go back. They're going to find somebody else. So I'm excited to see what happens, honestly, because I don't want to wait another 30 years for another Superman movie. I know we're getting Man of Tomorrow, right? But I hope whatever happens, we stick with the plan.
Okay.
I don't know all the
I
behind the
just
scenes
realized
smart
you and I
stuff,
have been
man.
talking.
I just
You
like
and I have been
listening to
talking.
y'all. I just like listening to y'all. So y'all know what you're talking about.
It's been a while since we've done a show together.
It has, and this is how it always went. Like it's on some level, right? Like is
Yeah.
Jay just sitting there kind of quiet? Jay is like the silent Bob to Dan and I's Jay. Where it's when Jay talks, it's usually profound because Dan and I have been running our mouth for an hour. Um, so there are a couple of things that are left kind of to talk about with this, like before we start wildly speculating on what could happen. Um, one of them, there was a statement by Jack Warner's grandson, who's a filmmaker named Gregory Orr, that basically talked about how Netflix is going to have to exhibit some stewardship of this massively historic company. That they're going to have to kind of exhibit a willingness to maintain the backbone and the structure that has guided Warner Brothers for all these years, which I'm not 100% sure dude's in touch with reality of the recent last, say, 20, but sure. Um, and the Hollywood Reporter put out 5 questions that need to be answered still. And believe it or not, we've talked about 4 of the 5. The one we haven't talked about is the question: how will Netflix culture combine or clash with those of HBO and Warner Brothers? And the reason that I read it directly is I'm going to read you just verbatim what the Hollywood Reporter wrote, because I want to hear your thoughts on it. If the guiding philosophy behind Netflix's series is gourmet cheeseburger, a coinage attributed to Ginny Howe, then a VP and now head of US and Canada scripted series, HBO might be considered fine dining, synonymous as it is with prestige TV. Netflix is primarily in the volume business, producing dozens of shows across just about every TV genre, from drama to true crime to Is It Cake? While HBO takes longer to develop and produce programming and tends to stick mostly to scripted series and impactful documentaries. One possible commonality is in the evolving definition of the HBO Max original, with Emmy Award winner The Pitt, an expertly made broad appeal procedural, as the template. One model Netflix and HBO could look to is FX's place within Disney. FX serves as the prestige TV brand within the Mouse House, and John Landgraf and company are largely left to their own devices to make the shows they want. HBO is an even bigger brand and probably carries more value in being an add-on to Netflix rather than a subsidiary of it.
I agree with that. I think in a lot of ways, what was going to happen is, you know how they keep going, we're HBO, we're HBO Max. No, we're Max. I think what's eventually going to happen is you're just going to end up with HBO again, with the Max stuff moving to Netflix possibly, or at least finding some common ground. But if I'm Ted Sarandos, I'm not stupid. Netflix isn't a studio producer in the sense that, you know, they know what they create a crap of content, flood it, and hope something catches on. For every department Q, you end up with like 97 pieces of crap. I like Department Q. But you end up with, that's their market. HBO and Warner Brothers is different. Well, if Ted Sarandos is smart, what he does is he just creates a pipeline to feed the projects into Netflix for more revenue, but you don't get rid of the existing mechanism, because what if it fails? What if you bring it together and suddenly you're not making the money you need to? You need to have something you can sell. You know, Warner Brothers is sellable. It's a commodity. You don't merge it in. It's not like you're making it bigger. It's when you're a movie studio and you buy another movie studio and you merge together, you make a bigger movie studio. But when your basic company is a streaming service first, you don't gain anything in your streaming service by doing that other than content. So don't destroy the content creation because you're not merging the same thing. You're not. It's not apples and oranges. So it's kind of like Amazon when they bought MGM. Yes, they're kind of taking over MGM. They're kind of putting some people in charge, but the MGM mechanism is still there because that's what MGM does.
Right.
You
Well, and
know.
I think too, there's this conversation about how Netflix is buying Warner Brothers, but Netflix isn't buying Warner Brothers. Netflix is buying Warner Brothers Studios.
Mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers owns the company that makes socks. Netflix don't want to make socks. Warner Brothers owns Warner Brothers Television Distribution, a company that, while it has lost some foothold since the TGIF days, still exists. Netflix doesn't care about television distribution.
No, they're not taking CNN in the deal.
Right. Again, and so then there's all of this other stuff that became part of Warner Brothers when it merged, with the whole TBS, TNT, the
Discovery.
hmm?
Discovery.
Well, no, I was going to say that when Discovery merged with, or when Warner merged with the guy who owned WCW, Ted Turner's stuff. And then there's even more that came in when it merged with Discovery, and then they bought the Weather Channel at one point. That they sold the Weather. Like, Warner Brothers has owned a lot of things over the years, and Discovery has owned a lot of things over the years, and this is a constant movement. All Netflix wants are the people who make the movies and television. They don't want any of the other stuff,
Right.
right? So there's this idea that, well, all of Warner Brothers is now property of Netflix, and it isn't. They're going to spin a bunch of this off into a new company that's going to oversee a bunch of different divisions. I always think when we go through one of these corporate shenanigans, I always think about 30 Rock
Okay.
and the GE, and that it's all owned by that NBC at one point was all owned by GE. So they're going to lump the microwave division in with the television division, but they're going to keep washers and dryers. Like, this is very much how this process will go for the next several months, where it's okay, DC Comics, we don't want you. There you go. We're going to spin that off into its own company. And and Warner Brothers Apparel, we're going to spin you off into your own company, or we're going to put you guys over there in a company together. And Warner Brothers Television Distribution, we're going to sell you to, Comcast, so you can feed their cable network. And it's all going to get parted out. And so it's an interesting thing to think about, right? When we think about, what this actually will look like, and what Netflix is going to keep as its own thing. So I think
Mm-hmm.
you're right when you say that you got to keep Warner Brothers as its own entity so that eventually you can sell it without having to sell Netflix.
Yeah. We honestly don't know what's going to happen because as we're talking, I'm thinking, you know what they could do? They could close down DC Comics altogether, then license those characters out to a different publisher, let another publisher publish them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And that would be smart. You think the Mouse wouldn't pay big money to be able to publish Batman? It ruined Batman, but they'd pay big money for it.
yeah.
So I have two more little tabs here that I wanted to kind of mention. There is a story coming out that Warner Brothers' hidden appeal to Netflix is AI training. Um, so much of that Bat content that Warner Brothers owns, again, we think Lawrence of Arabia. doesn't have the AI restrictions on it that modern content has. Netflix, Disney just kind of made kind of had an announcement that says Disney threw down a gauntlet several weeks ago when leader Bob Iger announced the company will soon allow Disney Plus subscribers to create user-generated content and consume user-generated content, mostly short form, from others. So basically, they're going to let you make your own AI slop that you can watch because you want to see what it would be like if Iron Man and Mickey Mouse are hanging out. Now, you're not going to get Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, but you're going to get Iron Man,
Right.
right? Netflix doesn't have all of that. And if they want to compete with that, they've got to have some sort of catalog that is not restricted by the current AI regulations that they've agreed to in order to get the writers union and the actors unions to stop, being on strike last year. So what do you guys think? Do you think there's a future in user generated content?
It all sounds pretty goofy to me, but
Uh-huh.
Yep.
cool. I don't know, man. I look at social media and I see so many AI generated videos and AI generated art, and it's like, as much as I despise it, it might just be like trying to hold back a dam, just because, again, the younger people nowadays the Gen Z or whatever you want to call them, don't have the connections to those things. And it's like, oh, I can make my own. Okay, here we go. Yay, look, there it is. I think the world is just changing drastically. And yeah, I'm the guy sitting there telling people to get off my lawn. But I just, I don't see a way to stop it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wind up. I think there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna be into it. But I think the problem we're gonna face is then what is canon? What actually exists? Right? Like what actually okay, just because you made it doesn't make it real. You know, and I think that's going to wind up at some point again, this same generation that's going to be big on physical media is going to be saying, "Well, wait a minute. Just because you made an AI thing or you got it to make the content you wanted, that doesn't mean anything because it isn't real." You need canon in order for anything to have any meaning at all. If it isn't for Iron Man's canon, nobody wants to make Iron Man AI crap.
What if this is also because we don't see that they're going to allow this to happen, but I'm sure there's going to be some kind of caveat like, well, yes, you can do this, you have permission, but the end product, we still kind of own the end product because it's our characters. And if they do that, is this some kind of bizarre way of getting around the fact that some of these characters are moving into the public domain? So instead of, oh, well, people are going to, if they do it this way and they make Superman stuff, we still own it. But if Superman's no longer is, now in the public domain, and somebody goes out and makes a Superman that we don't own, maybe that's what they're trying to do is get around the fact that these copyrights are going to run out. Superman, Batman, Mickey Mouse, they're all coming up, and where Disney has pushed this and pushed this and pushed this, eventually they're going to not be able to anymore. But if they allow it out there into AI and people are like, oh, well, I can just do it through this AI. If the agreement to do it that way includes Disney still owning what you're making,
I think it would have to. Like, I don't know how true the Spider-Man Tombstone story is when it comes to Disney, but I don't see Disney just being like, make what you want, use our stuff. So yeah, I think there's going to be some kind of caveat where they still own whatever gets made.
Yeah.
Um, I also think that no matter it's coming. Like I've seen some trailers very recently that were fake, and they almost fooled me. How good some of this stuff is getting. Like it's getting scary, not only with video AI, but we had the voice AI stuff on top of it, like all the deep fake stuff. Like this stuff is getting scary. It is getting scary.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, again, AI as it exists now is already starting to cannibalize itself. So it's going to get bad, and then they're going to have to retrain. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Um, because we want to get to the wild speculation, but TJ asked a question earlier. Let's look at Netflix's history with comic properties, aka the Millarverse.
Mhm.
That's not the only thing that they've messed around with, though. They have Greg Rucka's The Old Guard. They had Sandman. They had Dead Boy Detectives. They had
October
um,
collection.
yeah, October Collection. They had End of the Effing
Umbrella
World,
Academy.
Umbrella Academy. So they've done some stuff with some comic books. Now, everybody has their own opinion, and in mine, Old Guard could have been better. Umbrella Academy could have been better. Sandman was fine. Dead Boy Detectives was great. The Millar World stuff kind of sucked. It was the only thing that I would really say was bad.
By the way, Mark Millar has removed himself from all social media once the Netflix deal was announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bleeding Cool ran that story. But yeah, I guess he just took himself all off of social media.
Hmm.
Coincidence?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I will say this though, the Netflix stuff got me interested enough to read. Like again, outside of Old Man Logan, and I'm pretty sure there's some other things by Mark that I've read, but I've never read Jupiter's Legacy. I've never read, some of the stuff that they were coming out with. So regardless if it was bad or not, me not knowing anything about the property had me interested in it. Like when we found out about Jupiter's Legacy, though, we didn't even finish it because it was like at that point, what's the point of getting invested if
Yep.
you've been told it's almost like Swamp Thing, except Swamp Thing was so good that I had to watch it and I continue to watch that. But it's one of those things. It's almost getting to the point where I'm like, unless this thing is, they say it's only going to be one season before it even starts. There's no cliffhangers, no nothing like that. It's one season, everything's wrapped up. Or you can tell me this thing is going to be 3 seasons, like just to start, and there's no. It's like doing a trilogy movie. You come up to me and you tell me, "Hey, we're doing a trilogy of these movies. We're filming them back to back to back. That's guaranteed to be a trilogy." You're going to get me interested to watch that first movie.
Yeah.
But again, it's so hard to get, especially with the way streaming is right now. There is so much stuff out there, y'all. There's so many different platforms. There's so many great shows that I haven't even watched yet because there's just so much content. But it's hard to get invested in something if I've already been told, hey, it's already canceled. Like it's just hard.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is knowing it's already canceled is one thing, but not knowing. So we're going to do a season, and we're going to see how that season does, and then we're going to do another season.
Yeah.
It's something else entirely, right? And I don't know, maybe I'm spoiled by going a little bit more of the independent route, right? Like I've been a big proponent of Dropout TV. Like that's a platform that because they're bootstrapped, as it were, nothing is guaranteed more than one. Right? They've done shows where they've done one episode and
Yeah.
been like, you know what?
Yeah,
Now,
but television.
luckily, it's unscripted, like it's unscripted stuff, so it's like not like they're putting big money into hiring,
Yeah.
so it's a
But
little different. But
there are network television shows that went one episode and disappeared. Remember Cop Rock?
Oh God.
no, but I do remember the 2 episodes of the Paul Reiser show.
There you go. Yeah.
So no, it's true. So I don't. I think the thing about Netflix is, oh God, TJ. Or there was a show. Oh, what did I watch? It was Jack Black and Owen Wilson, and where Jack Black played a cop and Owen Wilson was a talking motorcycle. I'm just
I
saying.
heard about that.
Oh yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah. Anyway, listen. I will say this. I don't mind giving Netflix the keys to some superhero IP, some comic book IP. They've proven to me that they can do it as long as it isn't stuff that's a little esoteric like a lot of the Millar World stuff, right? Like Jupiter's Legacy was always going to be a tough pull off just because of what that series is. Huck would be a ridiculously hard film to make or series to make. You know, so much of Mark's stuff is just so comic centric that to make it, you almost have to animate it. It'd be like trying to make if you'd have tried to make live action Invincible, right?
Yep.
You got to animate that. It doesn't work. So I think it'd be interesting to see what they do. So now, those are all the news topics I had. Dan, do you have anything?
Well, first thing, I mean, a lot of people seem to think that maybe Netflix and Warner Brothers are a bad mix, but they're basically the same company because if you think about it, Warner Brothers took Superman away from Henry Cavill and broke his heart. Netflix took The Witcher away from Henry Cavill and broke his heart. It's the same company.
Maybe Henry Cavill just needs to leave.
Never.
Or, I don't know, finish the damn Warhammer movie.
Okay, that I can get behind. That I can get behind.
Warhammer! Just built this guy today. He's the Christmas special.
You
guys remember when Dan got into Warhammer because they were going to make a Warhammer movie, and now there's no Warhammer movie, and Dan's still into Warhammer?
No, I got into Warhammer before the Warhammer movie was announced. My nephew plays.
That's fair.
So
we were just talking about stuff like that last night. Stuff that's not DC or Marvel that could be animated, live action, what have you. And I said last night, it's like, there's a lot of things that, yeah, would it be cool to see it in live action? Absolutely. But there's a lot of stuff that I feel that it's better served in animation. Like the Millar stuff, Nemesis. I don't think I'd want to see Nemesis in live action. I think I'd want that to be an animated series if they were going to do something like that. There's just stuff that just feels better staying in the animated style than seeing it live action.
Right. I don't think that like a Green Lantern movie, even though I've been proven wrong by the latest Superman movie, I don't think a Green Lantern movie looks good live action. I think a Green Lantern movie can look great animated because they've done it.
we'll have to see what happens with Lanterns.
Right. It's one of those things that I think what will be interesting to me is to see how Netflix approaches movie versus series. Because I've often thought, and you guys have all heard me rant and rave about terrible comic book movies.
Yes.
Even when everybody else thought they were good and I thought they were terrible.
Yes.
I've often thought that one of the easiest saving graces to these stories would be to stop trying to tell a whole series or a whole story in 2 hours. Don't try and tell all of Infinity War in 4 hours. Do 8 one-hour episodes. Do 10 one-hour episodes. And you can still shoot it like a movie, right? You want to get the big name actors you can't tie down for a season, shoot them like a movie. but then break it up into 1 hour increments. Like, and the best example of this, Dan, what is the best Sherlock Holmes? What is the best Sherlock Holmes thing ever made?
The Jeremy Brett series.
Okay, second best.
Oh,
Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman.
yes.
Yeah. Hour and a half episodes.
So good.
That they shot like movies. Those things were shot 3 episodes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And they made it into a series. There's no reason not to do superheroes that way, not to do comic book series that way, right?
Yeah.
So you want to do a Legion of Doom series, you can go get big actors, shoot it like a movie, do 10 hours, right? Now those actors are free. That's one contract, one movie, but it winds up being 5 1-hour films or 5 2-hour or 10 1-hour episodes that you can release once a month.
So what you're saying is pick the media to match the material, not make the material match the media.
Right.
And I agree with you. I look at stuff like, the Superman movie fit perfectly for a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But, you couldn't do something like The Penguin and really get in depth in a movie. That needed that amount of time, that amount of space, But we get so many shows that there's filler, like, oh, well, we need 13 episodes. When Netflix was doing Daredevil and those things, there were some amazing episodes, and then there was some utter trash in the middle because we need 13 episodes.
Right.
So,
well, I'm looking at Doomsday Clock. I'm rereading Doomsday Clock. You have 2 Flash stories, 2 Superman stories that are your lead-in to Doomsday Clock. And then you have 12 issues. What if you did and each of those issues could be an episode? So now what if you did 14?
Oh, that is tremendous.
Best comment of the night.
Polar Night wins.
That is
Polar
tremendous.
Night, you're my favorite person tonight. But I desperately need to go see my barber this week. Anyway.
Oh.
But no, you could do 14 episodes. You do a Superman story, you do a Flash story that introduces the button. You do those 2, and then you go into 13 episodes. The next 12 episodes have nothing to do with those guys, but it explains it.
Yeah. See, I've had this feeling for a long time when streaming really started picking up. I've wondered why. Like Gears of War. Take Gears of War, for example. Netflix owns the rights. They're supposed to be making a movie. As a fan, I don't think they should make a movie first. I think there should be a very tight 4 to 6, maybe, episode series that leads into a movie. Because that 2-hour movie, there's so much lore with those characters. I don't know how it's going to work. I've always wondered why we didn't do a series into a movie into a series. I want to say, I've talked about this before with some other folks, the Dark Tower. Before that movie kind of didn't hit like they were going to, they did the Dark Tower movie, and then they wanted to do a television series to coincide with it, and then do another movie. So I've always wondered why they've never done something like that. And also, just to answer Unknown real fast, I love that movie because I don't play those games. I'm not a board gamer. So that movie, to me, World of Warcraft, I dug it because I knew nothing about it. I know that people that actually play World of Warcraft and stuff, they weren't too big on it, but I can tell you, as somebody who doesn't play that stuff, I thought World of Warcraft was phenomenal. I loved it.
Yeah, again, I think that's the benefit to this merger that nobody's talking about, right? Because you have so many different options now. Studio release, direct to consumer through streaming, television, all of these different things that because Warner Brothers has had its hands in so many pies for so long, and Netflix has had its kind of very specific version of this, you can take the content and make it match the story.
And this could work to the betterment in a way, because if Netflix has Warner Brothers and agrees to keep theatrical release windows for certain films or majority of films or whatever they do, they might start looking at the other stuff they're doing and go, that deserves a theatrical release. That does. You know, those Ryan Johnson movies we're doing, we should put those in the theater for more than about, 3 days in Hoboken, New Jersey only. That type of thing. That might turn,
Right.
but, it really comes down to Netflix is, I think this happened. Didn't McDonald's end up buying the company that makes the shake product? And
Netflix owns
so,
the company that makes their ice cream machine.
yeah, basically they're buying the product so that they get a better deal on it and they get straight control of it, you know?
The better example of that, though, is that Costco owns the company that makes the hot dogs and the buns, so that they can control the manufacture process, so they can keep their hot dogs and buns at $1.50.
Yeah.
hmm So there's a couple of comments here that I want to address, and then we'll go back to wild speculation. Uh, Kevin Davis says Warner Brothers content going to Netflix isn't a bad deal at all. People are overreacting. Warner Brothers has been struggling for a long time. They can make a comeback. I think that's a misunderstanding. Warner Brothers hasn't been struggling. DC was struggling. And James Gunn and Peter Safran have started to correct and bring that back.
No,
But
I'm going to give that to him. Warner Brothers was having a lot of problems too. It isn't recently they started having bigger hits, but Warner Brothers had a lot of flops in a row. They just weren't making any money. That's why Discovery had to come in the first place.
I guess probably because I'm the TV guy. Warner Brothers TV has always done great. Like Warner Brothers, in my view, has not been struggling. Their movies have been performing, but they have a ton of television that's top level.
Yeah.
Uh,
But the movies have definitely been struggling.
yeah. Then he says theatrical chains will survive because people will show up and support, but those movies alone will not keep theaters in business. Right? You list off a whole bunch of movies there, and that's true. But those movies alone will not keep movie theaters in business. Movie theaters need popcorn movies. They need big budget studio movies like that, but they also need the small, I'm going to take my girlfriend on a date movies to do well in order to survive. It's as much as it's been made is that, retail makes its nut Black Friday through Christmas. Big chains make their year Black Friday through Christmas. But that's not true. They need people coming in and shopping all year round so that they can get to Black Friday to make their year. You need those little bits, and if those aren't coming because they're going straight to Netflix, then theaters are going to wind up closing.
But also, this might change how theaters do things. I mean, do you remember the summer we got Superman, and then like 2 weeks later we got the Fantastic Four? Did they need to release right on top of each other like that? Maybe Superman comes out in June, and that's the big tentpole of June, and then July you get Fantastic Four. You don't need to stack them so much.
Well, aren't they kind of doing that next year though? Like at first they were doing Supergirl and Spider-Man Brand New Day in the same month, but instead they've moved Supergirl.
I don't know, but
I don't think they
again,
moved Supergirl, but, yeah.
I don't know that you're ever going to get Marvel and DC to not snipe on each other like that. right? But what you don't need is Superman coming out and then whatever the next Warner Brothers big action flick coming out the next week.
Wait, didn't Jurassic World come, or whatever the new Jurassic thing came out like really close
Hmm.
as well?
Yeah, and trounced
Right, that's what I'm saying.
everything.
Is now what you can do now again because you have so many options is you can release your big theater movie and the other movie that is and maybe a slightly smaller theater movie can come straight to Netflix, and then you give some breathing room to a Jurassic World, so it's coming out and it's not competing with two other big massive movies, one from you and one from Disney. Like it's this, you find a way to, I don't even know the word, homogenize your business, right? Is it's you get this, you find a new flow, right?
Derek, I hope not.
Tima, if it was all just they have a bunch of bad writers, I'd have more work.
Yeah. Warner Brothers and Netflix, hire Dan now. God. Dan's going to save
Yeah.
WB.
Well, again, and we talked about this earlier, is that Netflix is very much the Walmart of content, right? They're making a ton of stuff. And what's great, what's good is really good. What's great is really great. And then there's a lot of bad. But they're throwing everything at the wall because listen, the Big Show wasn't the greatest show ever written, but when you're a fan of the Big Show, it's pretty good television. Or Mr. Iglesias, right? Not the best sitcom ever starring a stand-up comedian playing a teacher in high school. Shout out to Steve Harvey show. But fun to watch if you're a fan of Gabriel Iglesias, right?
Hanging with
They're
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
hanging with Mr. Cooper. Okay, Mr. Cooper, then Steve Harvey, then Mr. Iglesias. Fine, I'm good with that. I will give you that ranking, 100%. So, but as a fan of Gabriel Iglesias, I enjoyed watching the show. Right? Not everything they're making is for everybody.
Right.
So, yeah, there are a lot of bad shows, but some of my favorite shows are bad sitcoms.
Yep.
Plus,
Because you turn your brain off and you go away for a while.
plus, Netflix has created this new way of spending your evening where you sign into Netflix and spend hours just looking for something to watch.
Right.
You're basically entertained by a series of trailers over and over and over as you and your spouse or whoever is with you go, no, I don't want to watch that. I don't even know what that is. Are they still alive?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. But again, it's what again, and here's the other thing that I wonder if will happen. And it'll be interesting to watch is if Focus Features, A24, some of these other companies that are really kind of championing independent filmmaking will start to get some of the films that would have previously filtered to Netflix or previously filtered to Warner or Sony or any of these companies, right? Like, will a Ryan Johnson movie that might have gone to one of them earlier now be a A24 film because he wants to make sure he's got theatrical release. He wants to make sure he's got physical media. He wants to make sure he's got, the Oscar qualifications. He must like the bigger names who, for lack of a better term, it isn't about the money, it's about the art. You may see those movies filter down and come out a different way than you would have seen them before. Again,
I think a lot.
there's a weird. Hmm?
Sorry, go ahead.
there's a weird dichotomy in that we saw it a little bit in comics in the early 2000s, and it's kind of cooled now thanks to COVID and the distribution war. We've seen it in a bunch of other things. My favorite one is the energy drink market to look at, but it's happening in movies too. Is these industries get so colossal, so big that they can't help but shrink. Right? When I was growing up here in Toledo, Ohio, a town of 270,000, we had 9 Cineplexes. We're down to 5 now. And there's none on this side of town. You got to drive 15 minutes to get to the closest one. Right? I don't think we need that many. We could afford to lose another 1, maybe 2. But I think that would bring a stasis, right? That would bring a level of stability to the ones that are here. You know, it's the idea of that maybe some theaters need to close, maybe some movies need to not be movies, maybe some shows need to not be shows, maybe some things need to go direct to streaming, and maybe, just maybe, we need to get back to voting with our dollars and not voting with our, like, nostalgia brain.
I think there's also a factor where you're seeing a lot of the actors coming out, or you're seeing the directors coming out. Do you guys remember back in the day when you would look at an actor and go, "Oh, they're a movie star. They're never going to be on TV. Oh, that person's never going to do an HBO show. Tom Cruise is never going to be on a TV show. You know, Colin Farrell, no way." Those change because the media has changed. But there are still people with that mindset that I'm a movie star. I'm going to be on the big screen. Or um, directors, my movie needs to be in a theater because that's how they grew up. That's how they got in the industry, was putting things on the big screen. But the media has changed. The way we consume media has changed. And there are some that are getting it and some that aren't. You listen to like Scorsese or, Coppola, these guys who are kind of bucking the system, and they, oh, it's not cinema. Well, it's not in a cinema. Doesn't mean it's not a good movie. It's not a good show. And, I think that's part of why you're seeing the backlash from the talent side is, I mean, eventually everybody makes the switch. You look at George Clooney. George Clooney, for a while, there was one of our biggest stars. He started on TV.
Right? Clooney left ER to do movies.
And before that, Facts of Life, a different ER show. That's where he got his start. Then he left ER to go to movies, but because they were separate. But now, the last few things he's done, straight to Netflix with Jay Kelly, the Wolves movie with Brad Pitt, that was an Apple Plus movie. He's getting to do these things where I'm not seeing him on the big screen much anymore.
Right. I mean, and it was unheard of for a movie actor to go to Broadway.
Yeah.
And he went and did Broadway. Like,
he just did that too.
Right. That's the other thing, is that anymore people are making the content they want to make, not necessarily the content that pays the best.
You've got to go to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it is. You've got to go to your audience. And right now, Netflix has a large audience.
It's ironic because I haven't had a Netflix in years.
Y'all talking about this reminded me of when Kevin Bacon in 2012, 2013 was on a Fox show, starting a Fox show called like the following. It's like some cult show. Kevin Bacon, y'all, came back to a Fox show. Like that, that's crazy to me.
Right. And now Kevin Bacon has a reality show. He's the Christmas gift that they get Peter Quill in the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. Like, he guest starred on the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game show. Like, for charity.
He did another TV show just recently that didn't do well. Got canceled after one season.
Right.
You know?
So, again, I think this is an interesting time because we're going to start seeing content be king. And everybody's always said content is king, and it wasn't. It's called making bacon with bacon, but yes. Because they're going to talk about all the different ways you can make bacon. And then they're going to cross it over with, is it cake with, is it bacon?
We've got to accept that the world is changing. You know, I still want people to go out and buy comics every Wednesday. It's not as, when I got into comics in the 90s, there were a lot more comic stores than there are now. There were more distributors. Okay, we got more distributors finally again, but it's just, everything changes, and movies are changing, television is changing, how we consume media is changing. TikTok and all these things, that's what the younger generation is watching. You know, I remember sitting on TikTok one night at like 1 a.m, and suddenly the entire Flash movie was playing. And it was just as, I've seen it since on, it was just as bad. The giant screen
ain't gonna get any better.
Yeah, the giant screen didn't help it, especially that baby catching scene.
Right.
But
I like how Superman also had a baby catching scene. Anyway,
but
there's
it was green.
Yeah, but still a baby catching scene. Like, is this a Hallmark now? Anyway, so that's the interesting thing. I was talking about, stasis and this sort of coming to a ebb and flow and finding its equilibrium, right? Where movie theaters are closing, not everything's got to go to theaters. Stuff can go direct to whatever. Dan just mentioned it. Comic shops, there used to be a lot more of them. But now all of a sudden, here we are. We're at a number of comic shops. It's lowest it's been in a long time. But comic shops are seeing a 18 to 20% growth. They're seeing a sales increase of 18 to 20%. Now, there are still shops that are absolutely struggling. There are still shops who are in real bad shape. But by and large, they're seeing growth. And that's led by shock of shocks. Warner Discovery's DC's Absolute series, right? Like, they have this thing that is this juggernaut for comic book stores, and it's helping stores to make more money because it's forcing people back into them. That's when we talk about, when we speculate wildly about what could happen now that Netflix has Warner Brothers. Again, Tim, you must not have caught the beginning of the show. We talked about all the antitrust stuff. There's a lot of different antitrust this has to go through, right, to make it. So, we're gonna assume it all goes, right? But when it doesn't, it doesn't, right? I've been saying since this announcement was made, don't dance until the fat lady sings, right? Like, it ain't over till it's over.
Yep.
And we're far from over. But
that fat lady's the only one with job security, I'm telling you.
It's true, man. But it's going to be, when we talk about the wild speculation of what could happen, we're at an unprecedented time of IP growth. There is more IP being put out into the world now than there has been in a long time. New content ideas, new storylines, new things that exist now that 20 years ago we couldn't dream of for science fiction is now reality. So want to get you, and I want Jay. You got to chime in on this one, dude. Is there a piece of content that you've discovered from DC, right? That at this point is a piece of Warner Brothers content that you think is specifically best served at Netflix? Because I have one.
Are you talking something like show wise,
No,
or?
is there like, so again, my example is absolute Green Lantern.
Mhm.
Okay. There's no way that's a go see it in the movie theaters movie. But it's so great that a mixed, semi animated, semi live action, direct to Netflix series would be a must watch.
Dead Man, a Dead Man series, 100%. That
Same with
would be it for me.
Absolute Martian Manhunter, right? Like an animated Absolute Martian
Mhm.
Manhunter would be incredible. It'd be a
Yep.
must watch.
Yep.
I think with Netflix, you could. One of the things that Warner Brothers is currently doing is creating these Elseworlds. We have the Matt Reeves Batman, and then everybody's like, "Oh, we got to merge him with Chris." No, that's one universe, and this one's over here. But you could do something where you could take the entire Absolute line and give that to Netflix to play with. Because when you start doing that, that's a pretty extreme version of Batman. So you've got Matt Reeves Batman, then you're going to have James Gunn's Batman, and then oh wait, we're going to do this Absolute thing. They could do that all animated, but do it a really intense animation and like
Right.
heavy metal or you know. So yeah, I think that it could that could work.
Well, and I think again, something like Absolute Batman, how do you get that through the MPAA without just absolutely ripping the heart out of it? Well, if you go direct to Netflix, the MPAA doesn't really matter.
Right.
Like that's a big thing to think about here, right? Like that movies are still governed by something outside of the studio system in terms of the MPAA.
Yeah.
Well, if you go direct to streaming, that's not a thing. I mean, again, um, they would. I don't know what they would bring in. TJ, they'd have to bring in somebody, but I think basically the whole episode, the Dark Knight's Metal storylines, right? The Night Terror storylines, all of those things would be great going directly to a streamer. And I think because Netflix has had such, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Stranger Things, man, they've proven they can do that type of content with Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. Let's let them try it. Is there, do you think there's a benefit to, we kind of already talked about that. So, but do you think there's a benefit to saying, hey, we want to make to Warner Brothers the prestige brand, Netflix the popcorn brand, HBO the real like gourmet, like, you see what I'm saying? Do you, of taking things that would be a Netflix property and throwing it on Warner Brothers, taking things that would be a Warner Brothers property, throwing it on Netflix, things that would be, and just kind of redistributing sort of the value system there?
I think that can be done and can work. But my big concern is, and this is something I want to see Netflix change anyway, is the hair trigger they have. I look at a handful of shows that Netflix put out this year, and there's, like I said, I keep talking about Department Q because that was just so damn good. They renewed it for a second season. Awesome. There was a show on Netflix called The Residence, quirky murder mystery taking place in the White House. Okay. Brilliant, hilarious, great cast. Did not get renewed because the episodes were too expensive, the return, blah, blah, whatever their reasoning is. Other shows that come on that, they have this quick pull thing where they do. And there are shows that get canceled before you even have a chance to find that they're there. So for me personally, I would like to see them take all the stuff with Warner Brothers and let it start with HBO Max. That's where it starts. And then once it's had, like, the Penguin, okay, we can now move the Penguin into season 1 into Netflix, and people who don't have HBO Max, they can watch the Penguin. Awesome. Older Batman movies, older these movies, then migrate them over. So you either get them through both or then they live on Netflix. But my concern is Netflix is like a swap meet. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no easy way to find things. Unless you know what you're looking for, you can get lost. My joke about, spending Netflix and search instead of Netflix and chill. What sometimes things get put on there and you never hear about them. On HBO Max, actually, there is something called The Flash Escape the Midnight Circus. I came across the other night. Probably most people don't even know what that is. It's an audio play starring Max Greenberg as the Flash. 4 parts, or maybe 6 parts. They're 20, 30 minutes long each. There's Captain Cold. It is this radio program. I've listened to the first episode, starting in this episode 2. It's great. Didn't know it was even there. I came across it because I went and watched the new Crypto animated shorts, and then went down and went, what the hell is this? So, you're already getting it on something like HBO. Netflix, you're just gonna, unless you know it's there, it's like books on Amazon nowadays. So many people are creating content, creating their own novels on Amazon, that the biggest problem isn't writing the book nowadays. It's getting people to know it even exists. So I actually would prefer if they would leave all the Warner Brothers stuff on HBO and then migrate it over later for people that just have Netflix, and maybe call back some of the stuff they put on Netflix. Just throwing the spaghetti at the wall to see if it sticks is great, but eventually it's just a giant wall of spaghetti.
No, it's true.
Get off my lawn.
Same.
Okay. So the last kind of thing, and then we'll sort of start to wrap up. Wild speculation. Again, we've been speculating for a minute. Wild speculation. A year's time, we're sitting here. This thing has been approved by the FTC. What's different in a year than it is today?
I think you have more things being tried. I think there could be a hit on quality. Now, maybe not with DC, because you have someone like James Gunn who's kind of steering the ship, but stuff like Harry Potter, Planet of the Apes, whatever, I don't remember everything Warner Brothers has, but you could start seeing some pretty low end stuff. And it could start watering down the brands. You know, uh, I don't need a sitcom about Hermione at home with her Muggle family. But somebody at Netflix, if they came across this video, went, Hermione and her Muggle family, that could be good.
Sounds a little like the Charmings, but okay.
Yeah. But the difference is you have you can put the Harry Potter logo on it. Or reworking some shows that weren't working, like, that thing we had in development there? What if we slapped, oh, here's a good example. That ballerina movie that we bought off the blacklist? What if we put Ana de Armas in it and slap the John Wick name on top of it? Oh, yeah, let's do that. That's how it happened. They didn't go out and go, let's make a spinoff of a John Wick movie. They bought a script and made it fit the John Wick universe.
Yeah, well, they just made a Superman movie that fit the John Wick universe. Anyway, Jay, what do you think in a year?
I think that would be something that I'd also be worried about, because I don't need a Planet of the Apes cartoon streaming series that's adult animation or anything like that. I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough to tell. It's really tough to tell. Um, I do know one thing, man. We got to find some way to consolidate some of these streaming things, because the one thing I can say that I hate about streaming is them having one part of a 5-part movie series on one platform. Two of them, two other ones over here. The other 3 are on this one. You got to buy 5 different services to watch this thing of movies. I put the stuff together, man. Find a way to put it together.
It's like the Ryan Johnson stuff with Wake the Dead Man coming out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to rewatch Knives Out and Glass Onion just for fun, and then, well, Knives Out is on Prime. Glass Onion's on Netflix.
Yeah.
So if I just want to watch those 2 movies leading into the third, I got to have 2 streaming services. And for God's sake, somebody posted earlier about it. I want to see the League of Ungentlemanly Warfare, or whatever it is. And I own a bunch of streaming services. I don't have one that has that.
It's on Stars.
Yes, and nobody has Stars.
I get Stars as part of my cable, so I totally DVR'd it just so I could watch it whenever I wanted.
Smart.
Okay, I want you to take your phone, put it in front of your TV, start the movie, and we're going to FaceTime, and I'll let you know when it's done.
Sounds good. So my answer for where are we at in a year is things that aren't on streaming will be on streaming. There are a lot of Warner properties that, because of when they were made, how they were made, Warner's current stance on the property, all of that, Discovery's current stance on the property, exists nowhere if you don't own a DVD. Netflix is going to have no such qualms. You mean we can get a subscriber because we make this available? Sign us up. Now, I don't know that the thing that came to mind is Sling Blade. You can't stream Sling Blade. there's a reason for that, but that's because nobody wants to put it on their streaming service for a plethora of reasons. Netflix will have no such qualms with the Warner Brothers library. They're
True.
just going to put up. Now, again, it may be buried in some deep menu that you got to know specific like hacker codes to get to inside the Netflix library, but it'll be there. So I think that's where we're at. I don't think we're going to see lower quality. We're going to see higher prices because, well, a dollar's not worth what a dollar used to be worth. Right? You can't avoid higher prices. So let's not blame that on this. Right? But I don't think they're going to lose quality because people will leave Amazon or they'll leave for Amazon. They'll leave for Paramount. They'll leave for Apple. They'll leave for whatever. Or again, as we've talked about, they'll just steal your shit. Like, I think the lesson has been learned about low quality, right? Over the years, when you put out a lot of low quality, especially when something was high quality, and then you drop it, people just leave.
Yeah.
People have no loyalty. I loved the Harley Quinn animated series, but it got to a point where it was just not good anymore. And I stopped watching it. Like, I have no loyalty to that series. I have no loyalty to any of this stuff.
Yep.
Like, in that regard. So you can't drop the quality because you'll drop the subscribers. That's why I haven't had a Netflix account in years.
I haven't watched the new season of The Witcher, but it's not because Liam Hemsworth is the new Witcher. It's because the second half of season 3 of The Witcher was really bad writing. So I didn't have an interest to come back to see, oh, what's Liam Hemsworth going to look like in this role? You know?
Right. And Derek, we talked about that. Like, Netflix's model is to throw spaghetti at the wall. There's something for everybody. So people are going to subscribe to it. Just because it's low quality doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you don't enjoy it and you think it's bad doesn't mean I think it's bad. Jay sent me a Netflix show one time to watch that I wanted to scoop my eyeballs out with a dull ice cream scoop. Jay and Jenna loved it.
What was the
It
show?
was the single dumbest 5 minutes of a show I ever watched in my life.
I don't even remember.
Something with an animated eagle is the main character.
Oh, it's that movie they did where it was Channing Tatum is one of the presidents. It was like called America or something. I can't remember the name of it.
It was so bad I actively retched while watching it. But Jay and Jenna loved it because it was just an excuse to turn your brain off and watch a fun show.
John Adams was a werewolf. Like it was.
Right.
I wish I could remember
Yeah.
what it's called now, but yeah, I remember now.
Yeah. Like, so low quality. I'm talking about, when I talk about low quality, I'm talking about abject low quality, not just stuff that's not your taste.
Yeah. And by the way, you want low quality stuff. Amazon Prime has Netflix beat. They have some old movies and old shows that are so bad.
They're so bad, the experience is trying to license one of them.
It was America the Motion Picture, by the way.
There may or may not have been a conversation between me and a guy at a studio to license Comic-Con, the game show, hosted by Bruce Campbell. Real bad. Real bad. Fun, but awful.
Yeah.
And I would love to have it here on the experience.
Yeah. I'm talking about Prime has like these 70 exploitation movies.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
Oh,
then
see, but I love those movies. I love those terrible '70s action, just really
or the
movies.
David Callum series, what is it, Silver and Sapphire or something like that?
Okay, yeah, not I haven't watched that one.
It's the show he did after Man from Uncle.
Ooh, yeah, I haven't watched that one. So, right, Amazon's got some bad stuff. They all have bad stuff.
Yes.
Shout out Tubi. Anyway, so yeah, we wanted to come on and talk about, kind of break down the news as it's to make sure we made it clear to everybody that this is going to take some time to get through all of the hoops it has to go through. And there's still a high level of failure, right? A high expectation of failure. Yeah, Steele and Sapphire, David McCallum, and Joanne Lumley. Oh, you know what I'm watching tonight. Anyway, but we also kind of want to take some time and just kind of lay it all out there, and then have a little bit of fun of speculating wildly.
Yeah.
But
And we want to
like
get back
Dan,
to the old band.
it's true. Like Dan said though earlier, listen, Zack Snyder ain't coming back. Get over yourselves. It's the last 3 minutes. I've said it before. Zack Snyder fans are like the MAGA fans of the comic book universe.
Netflix is more likely to hire Greg Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim to come back.
Ooh.
And yes, that's the CW, but they wrote Green Lantern.
I understand. But Greg Berlanti did Jag. I have an idea. Anyway, moving on. Anyhow, that kind of stuff. Like, again, the whole just kind of making clear what's real and what's not. And so we hope you've had fun. Jay, where can people follow Jay on the things?
Mr. 840 himself on Instagram. You can check us out at Hydrosylum Comics on YouTube and also Instagram, Facebook, all that cool stuff. And right here during the week on The Experience as a producer of this on this fine network.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go next. If you're watching on the Dan Wickline channels and you don't already follow the EXP all the places, follow the EXP. Dan used to be a big part of the EXP, and he will be again someday when situations allow.
Yes.
But hopefully sooner rather than later, I have a show that I'm working on that I need to write up that might be a great opportunity for the Dan Wick line. I'm just, still tweaking ideas and trying to find someone to pay me to make it and to pay us to make it, to literally pay for anything. And then to follow the EXP, that's the only place you can follow me. I don't want to be followed other places. If you follow me down the street, I will throw something at you. Dan, where can people follow you on the internets and how can they support you?
I'm on all the social media, usually under just my name, Dan Wickline or Dan Wick 70. I'm on Instagram, TikTok. I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff on TikTok soon. So, because I got to promote Obsidian Moon. But, yep.
Where can people find Obsidian Moon?
Right now, you get the 3 prequel Lucius Fogg books that are on Amazon. You can pick those up. The book 4, which is the start of Obsidian Moon, just reached the halfway point writing it today. So
Oh, nice.
It's coming along, and I'm hoping to finish it up in the next few weeks, and then we'll do a Kickstarter for that. So, but I got
very cool.
I got something brewing that may change that a little bit. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
And you can find Dan's comic book work wherever you can find 30 Days of Night or many of the other things he's written, including all of his fine work at Zenoscope and his other stuff from Dynamite Books and Dynamite Comics. So just look him up. He's all over the internet. All right, we will be back this week with our normal full slate of shows on the EXP, which I'm not going to go through. But we may have a very fun guest on Friday for the FOC show, so be watching that. Until then,
And I'll be back
I've
next
been
Sunday
Kyle.
for the Dan Wickline show, probably talking about Scarlett Johansson and the Batman universe.
That's at 7:00 Eastern. And then if Dan's you only normally do like what, an hour and a half, right?
I do an hour so you can do your show.
Right. Dan does an hour, and then at 8, come over to the EXP and buy things from me if I have things to sell you. So we will see everybody later on down the road. Dan, thank you for doing this with us.
This was
Yes.
great.
Jay,
I
thank you
appreciate
for
guys
being
being on
here.
the Dan Wickline show.
Yeah.
It's always fun when we get to get this gang together. And Dan and I didn't even talk about how he's kicked my ass this year at fantasy football. But anyway. So, for Jay and Dan, I've been producer Kyle. We will see you all next time.
Take care, everybody.